He's the #1 challenger and still he don't get a shot at the title. So working with a guy like Sylvester Stallone, he's a perfectionist. There might be people that just don't like you for whatever reason. A lot of people out there don't like me. I deal with it.
On screen, they were the unstoppable A-Team, a perfectly unified force. But behind the scenes, a bitter war was raging between its biggest stars. Mr. T has been famously tight-lipped about his Hollywood feuds, but now, the story of his legendary, on-set battle with co-star George Peppard, a conflict that nearly tore one of TV's biggest shows apart, can finally be told. And Peppard wasn't the only one. For a man who built a career on being the toughest guy in the room, Mr. T, born Lawrence Turode, found himself in a constant battle not just for storylines or screen time, but for basic respect. He came from the rough South Side of Chicago, a world away from the polished sound stages of Hollywood. He famously renamed himself Mr. T when he turned 18 because he demanded a level of respect that his father, uncles, and brothers never received. This core principle would define his career and put him on a collision course with some of the biggest egos in the entertainment industry. From the wrestling ring to the biggest movie sets in the world, Mr. T never backed down from a fight. Here are the 6 figures and the powers behind them that he clashed with the most. Before Mr. T was a household name for his acting, he was a pop culture phenomenon crashing headfirst into the world of professional wrestling. In the mid-1980s, Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation was on the cusp of becoming a global empire, and the key was WrestleMania. McMahon needed a celebrity to draw mainstream attention, and nobody was bigger at that moment than Mr. T. His involvement alongside Hulk Hogan was designed to bring new eyeballs to the product, but for the old guard of wrestling, it was an insult. And no one represented the old guard more fiercely than Rowdy Roddy Piper. Piper was a wrestling purist, a man who believed you paid your dues through years of brutal travel and physical punishment. To him, an actor waltzing in and taking a main event spot at the biggest show of the year was sacrilege. The tension wasn't just for the cameras, it was real. Veteran wrestling journalist Bill Apter confirmed it, stating, "Roddy was very protective of the business. When Mr. T came in, Roddy wanted him to know that the business was a shoot as far as he was concerned." There was a lot of heat between the two of them. This wasn't just professional jealousy, it was a clash of cultures. Mr. T was an entertainer from Hollywood, while Piper saw himself as a legitimate fighter in a world that still blurred the lines between performance and reality. The animosity was so genuine that many in the locker room shared Piper's disdain, feeling Mr. T hadn't earned his spot. The feud became intensely personal. In one infamous moment on Piper's pit, Piper attacked Mr. T's friend, Haiti Kid, and shaved his head to mock Mr. T's signature mohawk, a deeply personal taunt designed to provoke a real reaction. Their boxing match at WrestleMania 2 was a chaotic and brutal affair that ended in disqualification when an enraged Piper body-slammed Mr. T in the 4th round, a clear violation of boxing rules. For years, Piper spoke of his genuine dislike for working with Mr. T. Interestingly, Mr. T later framed it all as showmanship. He once said, "He was the ultimate professional. We were trying to promote something. I learned from Muhammad Ali, you gotta promote it." But for many who were there, the heat was very real. The rivalry smoldered for nearly 3 decades before the two men finally made peace at WrestleMania 30, closing the book on one of the most public conflicts of Mr. T's career. The role that launched Mr. T into the stratosphere was Clubber Lang in Rocky III. Sylvester Stallone discovered him in a toughest bouncer competition, and his raw charisma was undeniable. The character of Clubber Lang, with his iconic line, "I pity the fool," became a cultural touchstone. But behind the success lay a deep-seated resentment that would last for decades, a feud born of money and disrespect. According to Mr. T's own daughter, Erica Clark, her father has held a grudge against Stallone ever since. The first issue was financial. For his star-making role, Mr. T was reportedly paid just $30,000. While standard for an unknown actor, as his character became a phenomenon, Mr. T felt exploited. His daughter recalled, "He feels like he was underpaid. He made the whole movie." The deeper issue was creative. Mr. T believed Clubber Lang should have won at the end of Rocky III, setting up a rematch in Rocky Roar. When Stallone had Rocky win and then move on to Ivan Drago, Mr. T saw it as a betrayal. His daughter explained, "He is upset because I should have came back for Rocky 4. He was jealous I blew up. Then he just going to make the Russian come." This feeling of being cast aside after contributing so much to the franchise created a chip on Mr. T's shoulder. Years later, when Stallone approached him for the Expendables movies, Mr. T turned him down. Twice. Why? The roles reportedly would have seen his character either die or be on a losing team. For Mr. T, this was an unacceptable echo of his on-screen loss to Rocky Balboa. His daughter put it bluntly, "My dad does not want to mentally lose against Stallone again. Why am I always being defeated by Stallone?" He refused to die in movies, a rule that became non-negotiable when Stallone was the one asking. It was a long, simmering grudge over legacy, money, and a refusal to ever be seen as a loser again. If the feud with Stallone was a Cold War, the conflict with A-Team co-star George Peppard was an all-out inferno. On screen, they were the perfect team of Hannibal Smith and B.A. Baracus. Off-screen, they reportedly hated each other with a passion. The conflict was a classic Hollywood power struggle. Peppard was old Hollywood royalty, a leading man from beer. Films like Breakfast at Tiffany's, whose career was now in decline. Mr. T was his polar opposite, a former bodyguard with no formal acting training who had exploded into superstardom after Rocky III. The problem began almost immediately. Peppard saw himself as the star, but it quickly became clear Mr. T was the main attraction. Co-star Dwight Schultz, who played Murdoch, stated plainly, "I don't think that George accepted the fact that T was the star of the show. The jealousy wasn't just about popularity, it was about status." While reports on their exact salaries vary, with some suggesting Mr. T eventually earned more, Peppard was widely considered the highest-paid actor at the show's start. The real issue for Peppard was that a former bodyguard was now the face of a massive merchandising machine and a pop culture icon. This professional resentment morphed into open disdain. Peppard publicly called Mr. T not a real actor and the worst actor on set. The tension grew so thick he would use co-star Dirk Benedict as an intermediary to pass messages to Mr. T. The simmering hostility finally erupted. After Peppard repeated his insults in a magazine, Mr. T got a copy. He walked over to Peppard's trailer, and in a voice loud enough for the entire set to hear, furiously read Peppard's own insulting quotes back to him. The feud had crossed a point of no return. Yet Mr. T never pushed to have Peppard fired, understanding that the on-screen chemistry was key to the show's success. Eventually, a quiet reconciliation occurred. After a health scare, Peppard reportedly sent Mr. T a bouquet of flowers with a note saying that despite their difficulties, he appreciated having worked with him. It was a small truce at the end of one of television's most infamous feuds. If you're enjoying this look behind the curtain, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more stories you won't want to miss. Now back to the feuds that defined Mr. T's career. Mr. T's battles weren't just with actors. He also had a contentious relationship with the producers of The A-Team, Stephen J. Cannell and Frank Lupo. The relationship was fraught with tension over money, control, and respect. The most public conflict was a contract dispute before the 4th season. Mr. T's popularity had skyrocketed, and he felt his contract didn't reflect his value. He was on the verge of walking away, a move that would have been catastrophic for NBC. The standoff was resolved at the last minute, with Mr. T reportedly receiving a significant pay raise, a move that likely poured gasoline on the fire of his feud with George Peppard. However, another incident recounted years later by Peppard paints a much more complex picture. According to Peppard, Mr. T once got into a major quarrel with the producers and demanded that several crew members be fired, including a wardrobe lady and the sound crew. Peppard claimed that Cannell was actually prepared to fire them to appease his breakout star. At that point, Peppard, who had a history of standing up for film crews, intervened. He went to Cannell's office and issued an ultimatum. If you have a list of 6 people to fire, you may put George Peppard's name down as number 7. Faced with losing his other lead, Cannell backed down, and the crew kept their jobs. Peppard said he was so incensed by the incident that he refused to speak to Mr. T for 16 weeks. This episode shows the messy reality of the on-set dynamics, where Mr. T's fight for respect from the top was at times at odds with the people working behind the scenes. In the on-set war between George Peppard and Mr. T, there was collateral damage. The most prominent casualty was actress Melinda Culia, who played reporter Amy AAA Allen. While Mr. T didn't directly feud with her, her dismissal was a direct result of the toxic environment fueled by the dueling egos. Culia's character was an integral part of the original team, but she reportedly grew dissatisfied, wanting a more active role in the show's action sequences. This did not sit well with some of the male cast, particularly George Peppard, who openly stated he felt a woman was out of place in the show's combat scenes. In her own words, Culia said Peppard told her from the beginning she was not wanted or needed on the show and would have her lines cut. With the two male leads already at each other's throats, the producers were desperate to eliminate any other friction. Given Peppard's vocal dislike for Culia's desire for a bigger role, she was let go. Mr. T was reportedly very upset by the decision, viewing it as the producers once again caving to Peppard's unreasonable demands. He saw a talented actress being pushed out because the show's old-school star didn't want her there. Her firing was a clear example of how the central feud poisoned the entire atmosphere of the show, with real-world consequences for the people around them. By the time the A-Team reached its 5th season, the animosity between Peppard and Mr. T was so bad that the producers made a change. They hired veteran actor Robert Vaughn, a longtime friend of George Peppard, for a new role. While there's no official record he was hired as a peacemaker, the hope was that his presence would soothe Peppard's famously difficult temperament. Vaughn was introduced as General Hunt Stockwell, giving the show a new direction. But his real challenge was off-camera. And surprisingly, it wasn't just Peppard who was the problem. In a later interview, Vaughn recounted that Mr. T's own personality could be incredibly grating to everyone on set. He described Mr. T's verbosity and loud personality as something that got on everyone's nerves, including his own. This reveals a crucial, often overlooked aspect of the conflicts surrounding Mr. T. His personality was as big and bold as his physical presence. He was a constant talker, always on, with an energy that could be both infectious and exhausting. This wasn't a feud in the traditional sense, but Vaughn's experience illustrates the wider culture clash Mr. T represented. He was an outsider who didn't play by the unwritten rules of Hollywood. He was loud, he was opinionated, and he refused to be anyone but himself. It shows that even a well-intentioned friend couldn't fully bridge the gap between Mr. T's world and the world of old Hollywood. The story of Mr. T's Hollywood feuds is, at its heart, a story about respect. From his financial disputes with Sylvester Stallone to his on-set war with George Peppard, nearly every conflict was rooted in his unwavering demand to be treated as an equal, a professional and a man. He fought for his name, he fought for his money, and he fought for his legacy. He may have been loud and he was certainly difficult, but in the cutthroat world of Hollywood, he proved that sometimes you have to be your own toughest bodyguard. Which of these conflicts surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And if you want more stories about Hollywood's biggest behind-the-scenes battles, make sure you like this video and subscribe. Thanks for watching.